Today we're breaking down four of the most common gym myths. Myths that almost everyone believes, but science is otherwise. And I'm not talking about TikTok science. I mean actual peer-reviewed research with MRI machines, randomized controlled trials, and numbers that aren't made up by some guy named Brad in the locker room. First up is spot reduction. The idea that if you do 1,000 crunches, you'll magically melt belly fat, or if you do tricep kickbacks, suddenly your arms will get shredded. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. One of the biggest studies on this was done by Kostek and colleagues in 2007. They had 104 people, men and women, train one arm and leave the other untrained. They wound up finding that subcutaneous fat did not change over time, and it was not different between the trained and the untrained arms. That means the fat didn't change, not in the trained arm or the untrained arms. They also found in their study that skin fold calibers were not suitable for assessing the local subcutaneous fat changes. This study supports the belief that spot reduction does not occur. And genetics, they matter too. Up to 60% of where and how you store your fat is determined by your DNA. Targeted exercises don't directly affect the fat above those muscles. So yes, you can grow your abs, but you can't choose where the fat comes off of. That's like trying to drain a pool by scooping water out of only one corner. The next myth is static stretching before lifting and running will protect you from injury. This one feels right, but research says otherwise. Let's start with a 2008 review that looked at 12 studies. Only one reported a significant decrease in injury risk. The majority showed no significant benefit. And when they looked at randomized control trials, they found the same thing. Static stretching before exercise does not significantly reduce the risk of injury. Okay, but how does it help performance? Well, they found static stretching before lifting can actually make you weaker. So instead of it reducing injury, it's just reducing your max output. Static stretching has been shown to reduce the maximal strength and power output by 4.6% to 28%. On top of that, another study with over 400 participants found zero reduction in lower body injuries. Myth number 3. If you're not sore, your workout didn't work. This one's everywhere, especially online. But soreness is not a sign of muscle growth. One of the best studies on this looked at older men doing 16 weeks of heavy resistance training. What they found from this was that men can safely participate in intense enough to increase strength and hypertrophy without promoting muscle soreness or muscle cell disruption. Not only were they not sore, they saw huge improvements. They found that 43% increase in muscular strength, 7.2 increase in the muscle area, and soreness was almost non-existent during the training or after the training. So yes, you can grow it without the pain. Soreness usually just means new movement, high eccentric load, increase in training volume, or lack of recovery. And the last gym myth is sweat equals a good workout and no sweat equals a waste of time. This one's tricky because sweat can increase with intensity, but it is not a reliable measure of effort. So let's look at what the research says. For the pro sweat side, exercise intensity increases, we do tend to sweat more. But Bueno found in his study, LER increased significantly at the highest intensities, suggesting increased lactate production. He also found mean LER increased from 7 to almost 12%, supporting that higher sweat rates require more glycolytic activity. So yes, high intensity often does mean more sweat. But the problem with that is sweat is also extremely unreliable. And they also found in the same studies, numerous studies have reported an inverse relationship between lactate and sweat and an exercise intensity, the result of dilution and higher sweat rates. He also said a significant decrease in lactate occurred at 70% and 80% of HR max. Most believe this is due to dilution. So sweat doesn't always mean more effort. Sometimes it just means more water is being pushed out and diluting everything. But they also found in Baker's study that it depends on a lot more than just effort. They found sweat losses can be sufficient to impair in performance. Sweating rate is determined by heat balance, metabolism, and environment, and sweating can vary between individuals 5 to 22%, meaning that sweat depends on genetics, heat, humidity, hydration, and clothing, and it's just effort. Two people could be doing the exact same workout and have totally different sweat levels. So sweating can be a side effect of working hard, but it's not a definition of a good workout. So to recap, you can't spot reduce fat. Static stretching won't prevent injuries. Soreness isn't required for muscle growth, and sweat does not measure effort. The more we train based on real evidence, the better our results and the fewer hours we will waste believing gym mythology.